I usually say welcome back or welcome, the word welcome, and I can't get over how odd that word sounds. So I'm try not to say that today. So I was pondering what I could say instead of that word, and like, the door's open, come on in. That sounds a little creepy. Let's begin. I don't know. It's October. That's all I could tell you. So today's episode is about a few things, but here's a quick update. So what's going on in Alaska today? In Anchorage, we had a little bit of snow, and I don't know if it's the first measurable amount of snow by what the Anchorage airport has, but in some places up on the hillside and other parts in between, we had a little bit of snow. So that means summer's over. I was talking to people today on a conference call. Basically, the way I see Alaska is you have two different types of weather. You have summer, which is any point in time that doesn't have snow on the ground, and then winter, and winter being when there is snow on the ground. It's kind of like in Mexico, I was told. We have two different types of weather here. We've got hot, we've got real hot. So, snow, no snow, there you go. So we're, as a family, we're trying to get things together and ready for the winter season. So around the house, trying to winterize things, trying to make sure that snow blowing type things, getting rid of snow, those devices, they're ready to go. Like your snow shovels, ice picks, snow blower, and something we're getting this year for the first time is a snow shovel. I'm sorry, an electric snow shovel. And so you may be thinking, well, what the hell is an electric snow shovel? That's pretty much exactly what I thought. I think it was about a year or two ago. And so I saw a YouTube video about somebody that had one of these things. And I'll describe it for you in case you don't want to Google or search for it. But an electric snow shovel looks like a shovel, sort of. But it's got the little rotor blades on it and whatnot. So it's kind of like a little miniaturized snowblower on a stick, a broom handle, or whatever you want to call it. The real purpose of it is to use it in areas and places that you may not be able to have a snowblower. Now, for example, if you've got an apartment with no garage and you just need to be able to shovel off your sidewalk or whatever, you could do that. Zippity doo dah day. Now, most Alaskans are cold weather folk in Minnesota and Canada and other parts of the world will probably tell you that that's not going to work. At one point, I would agree with you. But therein lies the word shovel. It's not a snowblower. It's a shovel. So that's really kind of where it is. So a shovel is not going to dig you out of everything. I've actually broken a few real snow shovels, trying to scrape up ice and do things. Metal ones, plastic ones, all sorts of stuff. Once it gets to a certain point, snowblower is going to be what you want. The right one can chew through some of that stuff, and then sometimes it's debatable. So anyway, an electric snow shovel is really meant for smaller areas, and when it makes sense that it's not too deep and crazy and hard and packed in or something like that. So real world application. It just snowed last night. Good time for a snow shovel. If you've been lazy and you've spent like 3 weeks inside playing Starfield and you haven't plowed the driveway or gotten the snow out of the driveway, it's probably not going to work in that scenario. So we do have a snowblower. Does driveway fairly well. But we have porch areas where we're lazy and sometimes we don't get out there and shovel as quickly as possible. So with something like this, I figure this is a better piece of kit. This should work very well. I thought about a couple different ones. I think really what I'm going to I really hate to say this, but I think I'm going to go for a battery operated one just because it's kind of a convenience factor. I know that my kids will probably screw this up and not charge the battery, and that will make me mad. And I will think, geez, why didn't I buy the corded one? And ultimately the reason is dragging an extension cord through the snow and winding it back up. It's a big pain. So thinking more along the battery operated lines. It's the lesser of two evils, as you would say, I would say. So we're going to get one of those sometime soon. I think it'll make things quite a bit better. You may think, what's the point in doing that? Just get out there and exercise. Well, the problem is sometimes you're not at home, or maybe you just don't have the time, or you've got other commitments. So really, I see this as like a safety issue. So that's one of the things that we're doing this winter. Buying the kids new clothes and coats. My son went to school 3 days in a row and didn't bring his coats home with him. So he brought 3 home today, which is great. I'm proud of him. Good job. But I decided I'd go ahead and get him some newer coats, because the one he was wearing last year was like a Costco special. It was orange, got really dirty. A lot of other kids were wearing the same thing. And realistically, I want to spot my kid from across town. I want to be like, there he is. That's him. I know it. One of the things I'm probably overthinking this when it comes to kids' jackets in the winter, but I don't want to get him something white and I don't want to get him something black. Why is that? Well, white during winter, you blend in with everything else. That's not really a good idea. So we got him that bright orange colored jacket. I think that worked out well. And I was showing him different coats on Amazon. I was like, this is cheap. Looks like a good buy. Has a kind of Darth Vader-ish kind of vibe. It's black, kind of puffy jacket, but it's got like the thin red pinstripe piping on it. Darth Vader. What do you think? Okay, Daddy, I like this one. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh no, I shouldn't have black, because if he's out of the street at night, or, because night in the wintertime here, most of the year, during the winter, I was like, this isn't going to work. And then I remembered this trick. So Anchorage had some kind of group of some sort that was giving out reflective tape. And I think the goal of it was to increase visibility for kids in lower light conditions. Maybe it was for bicycles or something like that. But Conan had a darker color jacket. It was like a blue color jacket. And so they were mailing out these strips. And I said, yeah, I'd take some. And I put those on his jacket, and those turned out really well. So I ordered a cheap roll of reflective tape. And so my goal is to cut up some strips and put them in some very conspicuous places. So that way, if he is walking along the road, somebody's going to be like, oh, there you go. So anyway, parenting guidance for dealing with kids in this kind of weather and conditions. And let's face it, it's going to be around for at least 6 months. So that's quite a bit of time, especially to get ready for. Boot wise, he's got new boots. He got some new shoes. He's got some rain boots. I really probably should make sure he's got some winter boots, but we're not quite there yet. Super freezing weather, but yeah. What else is going on into the great state of Alaska? We got our PFDs. And if you're a first-time listener or recent listener and you don't know what an Alaskan PFD is, it is not an Adobe Acrobat document. That is a PDF. So the PFD is essentially, it's a trust fund that was set up by the state and its people back during the oil rush days, if you will. A trust fund for all the citizens of Alaska. And there's a company that manages it, and year over year, typically it grows. And there's a certain formula that goes into effect, and every citizen in Alaska. That's resident of Alaska. I'm going to clarify that. After you've been for so many years and you qualify, there's lots of qualifications for it, but nothing really uncommon that most people couldn't do it. But anyway, you get a dividend out of that. Some years it's been low, a couple $100. Some years it's been pretty high. I think the year after we moved here, which we weren't qualified to be able to get it yet, was something ridiculous. I think it was like $5-6 grand a person or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that, but it was really high. And if you could imagine a family of 4, here's $20,000, bang. That's a big deal. No doubt. So this year, I believe, is $1,300. So for a family of 4, do the math. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. In Alaska, we've been lucky enough to not have a state income tax. And if you live in Anchorage, there is no sales tax, at least on certain things. There's an alcohol sales tax. Cannabis has a sales tax on it. Property taxes, but overall your total tax footprint here is very minimized. So to actually have the state pay you some money, it's pretty interesting. Now, there's a lot of politics that go into what the amount is. Politicians have gotten their hands into it, and I don't wax politics on this show, but the politicians definitely have their say as to what constitutes what people should get. So there's a lot of anxiety with some people about what they're getting and what they don't get. And on the flip side of that, there are people that could depend on that for a lot of their income in a lot of parts of the state. So it definitely is a blessing for those that get it. So for us, we definitely count ourselves among the blessed. We're able to do things for our children and ourselves. And that money goes a little bit of the way to helping out finances and that type of stuff. So we're definitely thankful to God for that. Definitely blessed. And blessed that we live in a state that cares enough to take care of its people. So really, really good stuff. What else are we doing this winter? So winterizing the house, we're trying to do some projects here and there. One of the things that, projects at your house, in the wintertime, it becomes much more difficult. If you can imagine, if you're trying to refurbish something, redo something, do any kind of home repairs, doing it in the snow and the ice and low light, that's a challenge. It becomes it almost becomes like a game. It's like, can I do this and not get hurt? Or can I do this and not slip and fall and break something? Definitely a lot of that going on. So we're trying to get some projects done around the house just to make life a little bit better. We've been working on our laundry room, trying to organize things quite a bit better. So if you have a family and you have some kids, you know the challenge with laundry. Actually, if you're a human, count yourself as a human being, you know about laundry. You know that if it's just yourself, you may not struggle so much with laundry, or you might. But whenever you live with a family, there's some laundry problems. So we kind of came up with a solution, and it's more my wife than myself. I don't know. Is it really? I don't know. I'll definitely give her the credit for it. But essentially kind of like a cabinet system where you have baskets. Nothing new to that, but these are like the big laundry baskets. So it's much more usable, because like the little baskets that you might see at Target or Walmart or whatever, like the decorative baskets or the wireframe baskets, that doesn't really help out so much. So my wife can be very handy. So she wanted to tackle those projects. So she went and did that. She built that type of cabinet. So these things will go in there. She's been making shelves and it's been doing really, really well. Definitely proud of her. And I'm confident enough in who I am and who she is that I don't need to necessarily press my way into it. Like, you're a woman and I'm a man. I need to do this. No, if you want to do this and you enjoy doing it, and it's where you're at, go for it. I'll support you. No problem. I don't have to interject my manliness into that. Not at all. So she does great. She's a strong woman. She does things. I've seen her move things. I've gone away and then come back and like everything got moved. And I'm like, how did you do that? So she's surprising. She's a surprising woman. It's already helping out as far as laundry goes. This is Conan's basket. This is my basket. This is her basket. This is Sophia's basket. This is a General Towel's basket. That type of stuff. It's definitely helped to organize things, because what really happens in the laundry world, things don't get put away. It's been my experience that a lot of things get washed, or they get started washing. The washing process has started. Maybe it's not come to completion, and certainly usually not getting folded. I am guilty of that. I'll raise my hand right up, but I try to do it. So this definitely helps. So if you're having laundry problems, try to organize it a bit better. That will definitely help. I've said many times to my wife, I was like, could we just pay somebody to come in and fold our laundry and put it away? Like I said, I've got no problem washing it. I actually kind of enjoy that. But anyway, there you go. Weird things. So we're trying to get that project knocked out. One of the things that Alaskans kind of suffer from time to time is S.A.D. S.A.D, right? Seasonal something. Okay. Seasonal affective disorder. What is it? It's a type of depression that's related to changes in season. It begins and ends about the same times every year. If you're like most people, with your symptoms start in the fall and continue in the winter months, sapping your energy and making you feel moody. These symptoms often resolve during the spring and summer months, less often, causes depression in the spring or early summer, and resolves during the fall or winter months. So treatment for this may include light therapy, phototherapy, psychotherapy, and medications. So this is the Mayo Clinic. Don't brush off those yearly feelings as simply a case of the winter blues or a seasonal funk that you have to tough out on your own. Take steps to keep your mood and motivation steady throughout the year. So they list these symptoms here. I'll read some of them here. Feeling listless, sad or down most of the day, nearly every day. Losing interest in activities you once enjoyed. Having low energy and feeling sluggish. Like here, I'm like, this is me every day. Having problems with sleeping too much. Experiencing carbohydrate cravings, overeating, and weight gain. Man, this is like every day. Just kidding. Having difficulty concentrating. Feeling hopeless, worthless, or guilty. Having thoughts of not wanting to live. Obviously, the symptoms get worse. Some symptoms of fall and winter S.A.D. So oversleeping, appetite changes, especially craving for foods high in carbohydrates, weight gain, tiredness, or low energy. So when to see a doctor? It's normal to have some days when you feel down. I agree. But if you feel down for days at a time and you can't get motivated to do activities you normally enjoy, see your healthcare provider. This is especially important if your sleep patterns and appetite have changed, you turn to alcohol for comfort or relaxation, or you feel homeless or think about suicide. So with all that being said, S.A.D is a big deal. As a Southerner that moved from the sunshine and sun and more sun to someplace like this, it was kind of a big deal. And I think that we didn't explore the outdoors in the wintertime, and still don't really, because we're just not outdoor freezing people. We just haven't learned that one yet. But we do, at this point now, we do try to get outside as much as possible during the winter in the sun, if we can. But for a long time, we didn't. And, a lot of those symptoms on there, not the more severe ones, but a lot of the common ones, the mildish ones were things that we experienced. And, that was completely new to us. We heard about S.A.D, but, didn't really know. So a few years ago, I decided I would try to combat that. And so, unfortunately, it involves technology. You've probably heard me talk a lot about technology, and I have a passion for technology. And so what I ended up getting into was the S.A.D lights. So S.A.D lights are essentially lights that operate within a certain spectrum that try to simulate sunlight. And so that's phototherapy, if you will. And one of the things that I'd noticed was the lights in our house were not as bright. And why is that? Because I lived in the South and I liked, the dark because it was always light outside. And so I wanted that contrast. So being here, that habit kind of followed with me. So I did some stuff to get around that. We got some lights that were in that type of realm. And so I put these lights up and they worked out pretty well. I was like, wow, this helps. This helps out quite a bit. And then I got some more lights, and all of a sudden I got onto this smart light kind of kick because I wanted the lighting in the house to be enjoyable, because, let's put it this way. You can go outside and you get all kinds of different light, and it's great. And I don't know, like a sunset, for example, really awesome. It's great. You miss that type of thing in the wintertime. You don't get to see the skies and the clouds in all their glory as much in the wintertime. So what better way to try and simulate some of that indoors by doing some smart lighting, different colors, different lights, different scenes. Variety is the spice of life. And that's kind of where I went with that. So I did. And to this day, I still kind of have a smart light addiction to a certain degree. And it works out pretty well. And so right now, I'm recording this podcast at night. In a previous life, in previous years, you would find me in the dark recording this. It'd be dark. But now I've got this really bright light in here, and it's on, and I feel good about it. It's great. It's these subtle things that kind of happen to your health that I feel like maybe get you in the long run. So we've got that lighting situation down. So not such a big deal for us right now. Definitely wintertime, get out, do something when the sun's out. It will definitely help. S.A.D is pretty common. I think a lot of people up here are undiagnosed when it comes to that type of thing. And, I would encourage people to try to be a little happier about the wintertime up here. So what else is new? I don't know if I mentioned this in the last podcast. I don't think I did. But my daughter started playing guitar. And I don't know if I talked much about me playing guitar and my love of music on this show. Usually we're really kind of firmly in the fatherly advice and problems and, good thoughts, that type of thing. But I really haven't talked much about my music interest. I certainly wouldn't count myself as a musician ordinarily, but part of me does think, well, yeah, I guess so. If you look at the amount of guitars I have and music gear and how often I think about guitars and what I do in music and whatever, yeah, I sure kind of look like a musician, although it's not my job of choice by any means, or what I do on a regular. Well, maybe I do it on a regular basis. It's hard to say. It's hard for me to determine like what my hobbies are really. And people ask me like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I do a lot of stuff." But I usually joke and I just say I make loud noises on a guitar. They just kind of laugh and they don't take me seriously because I don't take myself seriously in that regards. But anyway, I do. I enjoy making noises on guitars. I enjoy the artistry of the wood, the history, just the whole thing means a lot to me. So anyway, why am I talking about this? My daughter has picked up some musical sensibilities. So she's been playing saxophone for quite a while, at least a year or two now at this point. And she does really well. She started picking up piano, and I don't know what happened, but she asked me about playing guitar. I got in her guitar several years ago, an acoustic guitar, and I don't think she was serious about it. She definitely wasn't serious about it. But then something had sparked her imagination. She wanted to do it. So we went and got that thing out, and I started tuning it for her. I don't know where it kind of stemmed in, but I've got a Telecaster, one of many guitars, and I was like, hey, this is like one of the first electric guitars. They're easy to play. There's a lot of different varietal tones that you can get out of it once you give it a shot. So I had another practice amp. I put that out there for her, and she started going for it. She started using this Fender Play app and some other things. She kept going along, kept playing more and more. So I'm starting to take notice of what she's doing. And I'm like, she's really she's got something going on here. She's got some talent. She can pick it up pretty quick. So I showed her some other stuff, and I didn't say showed her some other stuff. I got her some more materials to kind of work on. And, I'm starting to hear the things that you would hear a beginning guitarist play. Like there's riffs happening. There's, common riffs from different songs playing. Like you're hearing some Nirvana happening, some Metallica happening, some other classics stuff in that vein, like the basic riffs that everybody plays and whatnot. I'm like, not bad. So I asked her if she was really serious about it. She was like, yeah, I really like playing guitar. And I'm like, okay, go get you your own guitar. So it was kind of like an early present of sort. We went through Guitar Center. She's like, I like this, I like that, I like that, I like this, or I don't like this, I don't like that. And so I started thinking, I was like, what does she really need? She needs something that's really easy to play, that looks cool, because that's a big deal, and should be able to stay in tune fairly well, and something that, just she jives with. And so I've got lots of different guitars. There was nothing that she looked at or thought about or any of those that was like, wow, I want to play one of those. So I'm like, okay, she's not into the shredder guitars, things that Charvel and whatnot. So I was looking at different stuff, and I kind of led her down this path of Ibanez. So Ibanez typically are, they're Japanese made. They're very much in kind of like a shredder vibe of some sort. They're not a Jackson, they're not a Charvel or that type of thing. But their necks are really thin. So a neck being thin, Guitar World, it's easier to navigate. It's faster to move on. Notes are much more accessible. So there was one that was like a dark shimmery kind of purple, really kind of crazy S-style body, S-style being Stratocaster, double cutout, that type of deal, and really thin, lightweight, no Floyd Rose, so no tremolo. So the reason why you don't want a tremolo on a beginner's guitar for the most part is because it'll go out of tune all the time. It makes changing strings really difficult. So you want something that's stable, because if you're out of tune, nothing's going to sound correct. If nothing sounds correct, you're going to lose interest because it's not the music that you're hearing. So anyway, long story short, I got her one of those, and she kept going. I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. And at this point, I hadn't really shown her how to play any guitar stuff. I kind of gave her some some pointers, but I'm not like, this is how you play this song and this is how you do that. And so there's something called the Positive Grid Spark, which is this little practice amp, but it also ties in with your smartphone and you can do all these cool things with it. So I was like, okay, she's really into it. This would be the app for her. I can show her how to play songs and the different tones, and she can take it with her to her bedroom if she wants to, plug in her headphones, you name it. So I got that for her, and she's really kind of taken off with it. And I'm really, really kind of proud of her. And it was one night, I think it was last week, where she's getting along with it and she's doing really well. And I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, she needs a little bit of help. So my first guitar story, and maybe I've said it on this podcast or not, but I first started learning how to play guitar probably around her age. And I lived in the South, my windows were open, and I'm just banging away at this guitar that, I was making payments on with my job. And I didn't really know how to tune it, and I didn't know how to put strings on it half the time. And I'm going for it. I'm trying to make it sing. I've just got this little practice amp, and it doesn't really have any distortion. I'm trying to do things, and the only thing I can do is like satisfaction and some other stuff. And a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in years, literally years, and as a kid, that's a long time, comes into my house. He didn't even knock, which is kind of bewildering. And he brings me like this thing that changed my life. And what was this thing that changed my life? It was a distortion pedal. And I didn't know what a distortion pedal was. I was a babe in the woods when it came to rock and roll and heavy metal and stuff like that. And he hooks it up to my amp. I mean, he hasn't even said hello to me. He just hooks it up and turns it on, and he's like, there. like shut the hell up, do this, and stop making whatever noises you were making. And I was blown away. Now, and if you're into guitars, which very unlikely that you are, but if you are, this was the Swedish Chainsaw. I didn't know that. I didn't know what those things were called up until here recently, but it was the Boss HM2. Amazing pedal. And this was like, holy crap. Like my El Cheapo guitar that I got from some old man behind the Piggly Wiggly that runs a music shop that also sells trumpets and trombones. This cheap guitar now sounds like Motley Crue or Poison or, whatever. I was blown away. And yeah, it's been this journey, and it's kind of continued ever since then. And so I kind of had that moment with her, like, I need to step in, and there needs to be an intervention, because she doesn't have the right tone. She doesn't have the right settings for the song she's playing. And I'm like, okay, let me have this thing. Let me tweak these settings. This is what it should sound like. I'm like, you're playing Smells Like Teen Spirit. This is what it should sound like. And this is going from clean to dirty and all these other types of things. And, one thing led to another. And then I bring her into my office and we're playing on my stuff. And I'm like, okay, plug into this. Give me some metal. And, I'm teaching her how to chug. And, if you don't know what chugging is, it's the, in heavy metal, it's like the, that type of sound. Not incredibly complex to do, but to get it to sound right, believe it or not, is a little bit more complex than what you'd think. And so after 5 or 10, 15 minutes, she's doing it. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like cheering her on, like a foot away from her, not even a foot, like maybe a half a foot away from her. Just like, yes, and it was a proud moment for me. And so she's still kind of been working through her riffs and, practicing and whatnot. And it's a great feeling. I didn't try to push it on her per se. I don't know where it really kind of came from, but I have to feel like it's kind of a genetic thing or something, something that got passed down from me to her. There was something that happened today, and I'm not gonna say it just because it's kind of a little sensitive topic, but something happened to her at school today, and it happened to me, right around the same age and for about the same thing. And I'm just like, no, that's okay. We got a cool call from the vice principal, and they're explaining this to me, and I'm like trying to process everything. I don't want to come to some kind of judgment. And by the end of the day, I had talked to her, and I told her about my story that was very, very close to what hers was. And I was like, we had a great conversation about it. And I was like, wow. It's like the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. It wasn't like I trained her to be in any or whatever. I think it's in the blood, I guess. Really strong case for nature versus nurture, genetics or whatnot. It's hard to say. Yeah. It's kind of been a very cool day. A lot of teachable moments there. Really, really cool stuff. On the flip side of that, we had some discussions about, I wish I could tell you. I really do. As part of our Bible study group, there was just a really great discussion about a verse of scripture. Our Bible study is pretty neat because it's a bunch of men. When I say men, I mean like there's kids in high school or just out of high school that are in there. And then you've got older guys who are older than me. Dare say 60s, maybe even 70s. And we're all sitting at this table. We're hearing the word of Christ, and we're having discussions about what it means to us and what our interpretations of it are, and experience that we're having. And one of the gentlemen was a great guy. I think the world of him. And he's sharing with us a story, and it was heartbreaking. It was incredibly heartbreaking. But at the same time, it was inspiring. It was a double-edged sword. And there's a lot of lessons that I kind of pulled out of it, but it was a powerful thing. And it just kind of goes to show that God works in a lot of ways that we just can't comprehend. And I struggle with it, just like everyone else does. Sometimes I'm impatient. And I want to understand like instantly. I want to know that this is what's going on. But that's not always the case. And sometimes, faith and trust is key components of that relationship with Christ. I don't know. There's a comfort there. And that's the passage of scripture that we were reading about was 2 Corinthians, the first part, talking about comfort. And there is a lot of comfort there. Christ is a huge comfort for me. And it can be for you too. I feel conflicted doing this podcast, and proselytizing part of me is like, yes, do it. And the other part of me is like kind of walking on eggs, because it's not that I want to, I don't want to offend anybody. But maybe, and this is probably the reality of it, is maybe I'm not the best person to tell you about the good news of Christ. Maybe I'm just not qualified. Maybe I don't feel like I'm qualified. But I want you to know. I feel like you need to, which I know you need to. But I don't want to push it down your throat. So God works in his own way, and maybe this is the path that I'm meant to go down on this podcast. So, and I apologize if I sound sad. I'm not sad. I talk a lot on this podcast, and there's not too many times that I just don't know what to say. And then there's days like this, and there's times like this, and subjects like this that I'm not as eloquent as what I could be. And a lot of this podcast is just shoot from the hip thoughts and ideas and advice about, what I've seen and learned and been as a father, and in hoping to help you in your journey. But when it comes to Christ's word, God's word, I don't know if I can be as shoot from the hip kind of aspect of it. So you'll forgive me if I say that sometimes Christians are Christianity's worst problem, because there's a lot of people that say things that Christ said, or interpret Christ's words arguably incorrectly. And I know as me growing up, I was affected by some of that too, where some people didn't act in a godly manner whenever they were doing or saying things about Christ. And I don't want to be that bad example. I'd rather be a good example. So that's me, warts and all. I am a flawed person, incredibly flawed. But I have a big heart. I have a lot of love for my family, for my Creator, my community, and you. So if you can get past all my flaws and understand where I'm coming from with this, then hopefully I've done something good. I really do. This podcast is meant for good. It's meant to encourage you. And I hope so. I really hope so. I would say that if any of this resonates with you, go to church. Find a church. If you go to a church and it doesn't speak to you, go to a different one. Don't let man stop you from having a relationship with Christ. There's a path for you. So I know I don't proselytize and whatnot. Maybe this is where the show turns into something more. But I feel called to deliver that message more and more. So I guess that's a change in my life as well. So, yeah, I mean, if this type of thing is not your thing, this podcast may not be for you in the future. I feel like this is going to happen more. So if this is goodbye, I wish you all the best. I wish you an incredibly great life and success. And I hope that whatever wisdom I've passed on to you is sage and wise and helps you along the way. And if it doesn't, I hope you find that what you're looking for. But if this does resonate with you and it's not goodbye and you still continue to listen to me, thanks for coming along for the ride. And I'm hoping that these talks of mine and these conversations that we have really, really kind of help out. I hate to say it, but it kind of feels like like this is a somber type of end to this episode. We talked about the sad thing, and at the same time, we talked about something really, really kind of happy. So, let's end it on a good note. You're awesome. This world's incredibly amazing. There's so much beauty in this world. There's incredibly great people out there. And if you need help, they're wanting to help you. Sometimes you just have to go look for it. So, for Anchorage, Alaska, my name is Thomas Greenman. This is the You're Not My Father podcast. And I love you. I want you to take care. I want you to prosper. Be good. And be good to somebody else too.